We have a new bombshell report from some reporters over at Yahoo News. This is really crazy. So we learned Pompeo and CIA officials reportedly had discussions about kidnapping or assassinating Julian Assange. Wow. So let me give you some of this here. Some senior officials inside the CIA and the Trump administration even discussed killing Assange, going so far as to request sketches or options for how to assassinate him, the report said. Discussions over kidnapping or killing Assange occurred at the highest levels of the Trump administration, said a former senior counterintelligence official. There seemed to be no boundaries, The report says Pompeo sought vengeance against Assange for Wikileaks' publication of Vault 7, a trove of documents with insights into the CIA's hacking capabilities. Multiple sources told Yahoo that Vault 7's release hurt the agency to its core, and Pompeo, quote, apparently fearful of the president's wrath, was initially reluctant to even brief the president on Vault 7. Don't tell him he doesn't need to know, Pompeo reportedly said before he was told that the information was too critical for Trump not to be informed. The development was described as a source of embarrassment for Pompeo and other top CIA officials, and Yahoo reports that he and the CIA began to take a more aggressive stance against WikiLeaks. Pompeo publicly referred to the organization as a non-state hostile intelligence service, as he and the CIA deliberated a countermove, and that designation played into their attempts to establish the legal grounds for offensive counterintelligence actions against WikiLeaks. Wow. So that's absolutely astounding. Absolutely astounding. Now, they go on to say they were picking up the ball and running with it from the previous administration. So in other words, happening in the intelligence agencies in the previous administration were conversations as well about how do we kidnap him? How do we assassinate him? And it wasn't like when it was brought up under Pompeo in the Trump administration that everybody was shocked by it. It was just, we're just picking up the ball and running with it because they were talking about that previously. There were also conversations about designating Glenn Greenwald and Laura Poitras, The Guardian and others, as, I think they called them information brokers. So in other words, give them a legal categorization that is different from journalists or reporters so that you can say they're aiding and abetting hostile foreign powers, and then you can use force of law to go after them as well. So what we're seeing here is a colossal admission that CIA, the NSA, probably the FBI, our intelligence apparatus, they're still doing the same stuff that they did during the Cold War, where it was, hey, let's go completely rogue and assassinate foreign heads of state that we don't like because they don't toe the U.S. corporate line and they don't let us exploit them and jack their natural resources and they don't want to work with us. They don't want to deal with us. So let's overthrow a democratically elected government and pretend like we're the supporters of democracy and the believers of human rights and justice and freedom and liberty. They were talking about assassinating, murdering, kidnapping Julian Assange, and they had the details they give on the plans they laid out were preposterous. They thought they were doing some James Bond 007 stuff where they're like, we'll shoot out the tires on the plane when Assange is trying to escape to go to Russia. And they had these wild fantasies in extreme detail where they talked about it. Now, the other thing to point out here is the giant gap between what was really going on behind the scenes and what the public perception was. Because you guys remember this, and I'm guilty of it too, just like many others. There was clearly a big rift between Trump and many people who were part of the intelligence community, namely because of Russiagate. So it looked like there was a faction within the intelligence community that was against Trump and were trying hard to Russiagate him to bring him down. So it looked like a lot of the people who Trump needed to hate in order to potentially pardon Assange or commute Assange and let him go, Trump actually did hate those people. So there was a lot of speculation, hey, maybe on the way out, he'll put his middle fingers up and he'll just say, I'm pardoning Assange. Because, again, the people who hate Assange, a faction of them also hated Trump. Well, it turns out nothing could be further from the truth. Trump, as per usual, was completely cucked by the deep state. And so, just like how, oh, I'm going to pull out of all of our wars to spite them, and then he didn't do that, same thing. Oh, I'm going to pardon Assange to spite them. No, he was behind the scenes, engaged in the same conversations, talking about options, and that, which is why Trump went on the campaign trail from saying, we love WikiLeaks, because they were reporting negatively on Hillary Clinton. He went from saying, we love WikiLeaks to, I don't know anything about that. I don't even know what you're talking about. Maybe you should talk to the Department of Justice or talk to the CIA. And so now we know, both under the Obama administration and under the Trump administration, there were serious conversations about assassinating, murdering Julian Assange. The other takeaway I get from this piece, and this is the most disturbing part, I think, is that you have the spectrum of acceptable debate and thought on this issue within the U.S. federal government was the left side of the conversation was, don't kill him, don't kidnap him, stop that right now. We're going to use the law in order to bring him down. So, in other words, just use traditional legal channels. Just say, whatever, he's violating the Espionage Act and he's aiding and abetting foreign powers that are enemy states. And so, by the way, who was the representative of this line of thought? Jeff Sessions. It was Jeff Sessions and it was others back when Jeff Sessions was part of the Trump administration. He was you can't call this the voice of reason because this is also insane and it would destroy the First Amendment and destroy the Constitution and destroy the Bill of Rights and our civil liberties. But his more left-wing position in the spectrum of acceptable thought in D.C. was, let's just go after him through legal channels. Let's just make it so that we incentivize in the future no more whistleblowers, no more reporting on the embarrassing facts about the intelligence agencies and what we do around the world. And so there were a few representatives of that ideology and that philosophy who were trying to say, don't kidnap him, don't murder him, that's insane, that's not feasible, that's not plausible, let's just use legal channels, we can win on the legal channel front. And then the right-wing spectrum, represented by Pompeo and others, was, here are the specific plans that we've drafted to kidnap him, to murder him, and this is the path that we want to take. The thing that you need to take away from this story is very simple. Both under Democrats and Republicans, in the Obama administration when the intelligence agencies were running wild, and the Trump administration when they were running wild, there were no representatives of the First Amendment, of the Constitution, of a free press, of liberty and freedom. None of them were there. None of them. And so it was either throw the book at him legally or kidnap him and murder him. And that's devastating. Remember, guys, Obama was a constitutional law professor. And his intelligence agencies were casually talking about kidnapping and murdering Assange as well. And this is all because he made the U.S. deep state look bad, because they are bad. He gave facts on the U.S. deep state. That's it. That's it. He released information about the CIA and the NSA and their spying capabilities. They think that deserves the death penalty. And he showed that the U.S. military was killing civilians and laughing about it. They think that deserves the death penalty. No. Assange is a hero. Edward Snowden is a hero. Chelsea Manning is a hero. Everybody, Greenwald, Poitras, and everybody who was involved with getting these stories out there, giving facts to the American people, they're heroes. And their reward for doing the right thing and telling Americans what they need to know is being done with their money in their name is either being thrown in jail, or they attempted to throw them in jail, or casually talk about kidnapping and murdering them. This government has zero claim to the world police status and the defenders of human rights and democracy and freedom and liberty and justice status. Because what this shows is massive, colossal, imperial arrogance and authoritarianism, and there's no way around it. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.